It is time for the second and final Nord and Block 2024 mock draft. So we did one, I would say, what, about a month ago?
Yeah, about
Around
a month ago.
maybe a little bit over a month ago. We did the first 23 picks because the Stanley Cup playoffs were still going on. The finals are over. It's about 24 hours after game 7, and I think it's time to get full blown into the full first round mock draft. This is going to be very interesting. So it's very similar to how we did this in our last one. LeBlanc has the first pick, and we go every other pick the whole way through. We made sure that we have our favorite teams as well. Like I'm a Flyers fan, LeBlanc's a Sens fan, so we got our favorite teams. Only difference is that we're doing 32 and not 23 since we know the full blown order. So not gonna waste any more time because I know we're gonna be here for a little bit. Let's get straight into it. LeBlanc, who is the first overall pick in this draft?
Macklin Celebrini, Boston University. Let's just get right into it. There's no debate. There's no discussion. Just
Yeah, I think
consensus.
that there's a lot of mock drafts you have seen over the past couple of weeks. All of them have Celebrini at one. That is probably the only thing that we can agree on in this entire draft that Celebrini
Yeah,
should go first overall. After that is when he started asking some questions. So in terms of Celebrini, he had a very good year with Boston University, 64 points in 38 games played. His player comparable, according to the Hockey News, so you don't get mad at us, this isn't us, it's Elias Pettersson. So being compared to a solid Swedish forward in Vancouver, we'll see if Celebrini gets to that level with the San Jose Sharks. Second overall, as we said in this draft, the first overall is widely agreed upon. After that is when it gets interesting. So in our first one, we took Levshinov, or I took Levshinov from Michigan State. I think think I'm going in that same direction again. Levshinov going at second overall here to the Chicago Blackhawks. Now, I have seen rumors that Sam Dickinson will go there. I've seen rumors that they'll go with Demidov. You could go any way you want to. But I think Levshinov, I still view him as the best defenseman in this draft. His comparable is Jacob Chikrin. So hopefully, I feel like he'd be a little bit better than Ottawa's Chikrin. So we'll see. But with Michigan this year, he had 35 points in 38 games played. I think he was the defenseman of the year in
yeah,
the
yeah. He won Defensive of
AA.
the Year, and
Yeah.
yeah,
So he was the defenseman of the year. So yeah, so he's definitely probably the best defenseman out of this draft. And I'm looking forward to seeing him probably on the Chicago Blackhawks. So back to third overall here, LeBlanc. Who are we going with here? We had Demidov
so
for the first one. Are you going in that direction again?
this is where the draft begins. Like, I think this is where we could say there's multiple candidates you can go with, and I'm actually not going to go with Demidov here. And Pat Verbeek loves to go off the board on draft day. We are taking Zeev Bunam from the University
Wow.
of Denver.
So here's the funny thing. I have been studying on my own, making my own mock drafts, and I actually had Siliev going at third overall, but I could see Boyum as well. Boyum's comparable as Devon Tays. I would argue he's probably the second or third best defenseman in this draft, depending on how you feel about Siliev. But his comparable is obviously Devon Tays, so a much pretty good defensive defenseman. He had a great year with Denver, 50 points in 42 games played. Really stood out in the World Juniors this past year with the U.S. That was where I really first got introduced into him. But yeah, Boyum, really looking forward to seeing him play, and I think that he has the skills to be a great defenseman with an Anaheim Ducks team that, quite frankly, needs defense. So back
He's
to me at fourth
also,
overall. Oh,
I
sorry.
was just gonna say, he's also from Southern California, so there's
True.
a local connection there. So I think they could go either like Bunam. I can see Siliev here. I could even see a guy like Zane Perrick or even Carter Yakubchuk here. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Yeah, honestly, Anaheim and Verbeek have gone off the board before. Like you look at a few years ago, they took Mason McTavish at third overall. I think it was third overall.
Yep.
He wasn't expected to go that high. There's a few other examples. I can't think of any off the top of my head, but Anaheim's known for doing that. So Boyum at three does not surprise me. Fourth overall is where it gets really interesting. You would think Columbus. I think Columbus goes with a forward here. I'm not sure if LeBlanc agrees with me, but there's a lot of forwards on the board, and there have been rumors in regards to all of them with Lidstrom because of his back, Demidov because of his size. But I think that I'm going to be dead honest. I think Columbus would be stupid to pass up on Ivan Demidov here at fourth overall. I think that it's the most realistic. His comparability is Mitch Marner, so hopefully he's better in the playoffs than Mitch Marner. But anywho, unnecessary chirp at least fans. I apologize.
The
But
straight crazy.
yeah, strays are crazy. But regardless, Demidov hopefully will probably be better than that. Had 60 points in 30 games played with SKA. In the MHL, not the KHL for the guy who got upset with us in our last one. He did play 4 games up in the KHL this past year, but obviously, in terms of the KHL, it's harder to get ice time when you're younger. So that's what we've seen with Demidov. But he has the assets, has the skill to be probably the best, or sorry, second best forward in this draft class for sure. So back to fifth overall here with the Montreal Canadiens, LeBlanc. Who are you?
So Montreal, they would be extremely dumb to pass on Cade Lindstrom. I just if Cade Lindstrom's available, I don't see them passing on him. There are
Yeah,
concerns about his back. There are concerns about his health. But apparently at the combine, he said, he's fully healed, he's ready to go. So I think Montreal's been yearning for a big first line center potentially for years. This is your guy. You got to draft him.
it has to be. I mean, you look in terms of what they need. There's a lot of good defensemen in this draft. I don't think they go that route. I don't think they go for a defenseman. I think Lidstrom, you look at the forwards, like it's Celebrini, Demidov, Lidstrom, and then it's probably like Seneki or something like that. But I would definitely go with Caden Lidstrom at fifth overall. His comparable is Mikko Rantanen. So that's a pretty hefty hill to climb there for Lidstrom, but he has the tools to do it. 46 points in 32 games played with Medicine Hat in the WHL this past year. Has been a consistent player as well with the past 2 seasons with them. So I'm really looking forward to Lidstrom. The back is the his back is definitely a concern, but I think there have been instances where players avoid that. And there have been instances where players do get affected by that. But I think Lindstrom will be okay here. Sixth overall to Utah. So Utah's in an interesting spot. I would say that they need a defenseman. I feel like I look in terms of Utah, or formerly known as the Arizona Coyotes. Utah definitely needs a defenseman more than they need a forward. So I'm going to go with. I've been balancing a lot in between Zane Perrick and Sam Dickinson with this pick because I also like Utah as well because I was a Coyotes fan. Think I'm gonna go Sam Dickinson. Not because he has the same last name as me, but because I think he's probably the next best defenseman in this draft from the London Knights. His comparability is Matthias Ekholm. Feel like he'll be a little bit better than Ekholm. I feel like he's definitely a little bit better, but obviously that's you guys to decide. 70 points in 68 games played with London in the OHL. Those are good offensive numbers for a defenseman. He moved the puck very well. His defensive numbers are okay, I believe, but we'll see how he can do under Utah's system. So I have Sam Dickinson going at sixth overall. All right,
Ooh.
LeBlanc, it's your time. Ottawa
Ooh.
Senators, seventh overall, if they still have
This
this
is a,
pick by the draft.
this is a tough pick, and there's so many good players available. But from what I've been hearing and what I've been seeing, I am going to take, it's going to break some hearts, T. Jaginla.
Ooh. Yeah, you're definitely gonna piss some people off with that, especially people at number 9 overall.
Yes. I just feel like it looks like Ottawa is leaning. I want to point out this is a new management group completely. So like if the old management was grabbing here, I would have said maybe a guy like Siliev or a guy like Yakimchuk would be the pick here. I see them going forward. I could see them addressing their defensive needs in free agency. I think they need another forward, and it looks like they're leaning towards drafting a forward. And I think TJ Ginla, like you look at him, he's interviewed well. Um, he put up a crazy stat line this year. Let me just get the stat line up. He had
I
excuse
can
me.
say it for you if you want.
He had 84 points in 64 games, 47 goals, 37 assists with Kelowna in the WHL. The WHL is one of the hardest leagues to be a star in the CHL anyway.
Yeah, he had a really good draft here. You look at the season before that with the Seattle Thunderbirds. He wasn't that great, only 18 points in 48 games played. Then again, it was his first season in the WHL. But this year goes to Kelowna, really excels. And I think that really boosted his draft ranking here this past season. His comparability is Brandon Hagel. So that's not too bad there. I feel like he will be a little bit better than Hagel. Again, these aren't our comparisons. But regardless, the son of Jerome McGinley is already going to get you some points when it comes to where you're going to draft at. But yeah, Aginla definitely would be a good pick there for Ottawa, and it makes sense too. I think this team will lean towards a forward for sure. Eighth overall to the Kraken. For me, when I look who's on the board, and I look at Seattle's needs, I think I gotta take Zane Parrick here. I think Parrick seems the most realistic at this point. Parrick played for the Saginaw Spirit. His comparison to actually Brent Burns. This past year with Saginaw, he had, excuse me, um, 96 points in 66 games played. So really talented offensive defenseman. I would say for sure the defensive numbers are something that you do want to keep in mind, but I think that he has the tools to become a good defenseman. And ironically, he actually went seventh over or eighth overall in our last one. So one of the few guys on this list that I think does not move. So nice pick there at eighth overall. Ninth overall, LeBlanc, you broke these guys' hearts. You need to redeem yourself here. Who are you taking to the Flames at ninth?
We're gonna take Anton Siliev here. The slide stops. Um, I see him as a unicorn. Like you don't get a guy who has that size and can skate that well, and he's a defensive monster. Like defensively, he's the best defender in the draft. He just has no offensive upside. I know his comparison is It's Victor Hedman,
Yeah,
which
that's a little weird to me.
it's a little weird. I think I can see him developing into a good defenseman with some offensive upside. Maybe not the level of Victor Hedman, but I think like Siliev does not drive out. In my opinion, Siliev does not drive out of the top 10. So that's where the slide's going to stop for me.
If you want a defenseman to play defense and not be a guy who scores a ton, like for example, Perrick, who had like 96 points. You want Siliev. You want Siliev. I don't think there's anyone that comes close when it comes to pure defensive upside than Siliev. He had 11 points in 63 games played in the KHL. In
Mm-hmm.
the KHL. So, yes, 11 points. That's not a lot, but you look in terms of what Siliev is, he's a defensive defenseman, and he got KHL playing time. He's not like Demidov playing in the minors. You got KHL time here. So, second best league in the world, arguably. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that Siliev going at ninth would honestly be a steal to the Calgary Flames. And again, as I said, it wouldn't surprise me if he goes even higher on this list. Not gonna lie to you. It
I
would
do
not.
want to say that in the KHL, it's really hard for young guys to get minutes.
Yes.
So him being in the KHL all season shows me that he's legit. Like he's legit. I really do. I really do like Siliev. I could see him going as high as to Anaheim.
Now, LeBlanc, you think you know more about Siliev than I probably do. Do you think Siliev would be ready right away, or does he need some time?
I think if like you say he goes to Anaheim, I could see him being put in right away. But I feel like I feel like he won't come over immediately. I think he'll stay in the KHL for a year and then maybe come over the following year.
That's probably what happens. That's usually what you see with a lot of these guys, and that's probably what we're gonna see with a few of these guys upcoming. 10th overall to the Devils. I don't know. I'd say a lot of the really good defensemen are off the board. You're into the guys that aren't terrible, but they're still pretty decent. I'm gonna go with I don't know. I'm really high. I think they go with the forward here. I'm really high on Constant Hellenius. I would love to see Hellenius
I
go at
love it.
the Flyers, but I'm really high on Hellenius. So for Jokerit this year, if I can spell that right, he had 36 points in 51 games played his comparison is Braden Point, and Braden Point's been a notable second line center for the Lightning for many years. So I think the Devils, even though I wouldn't be surprised if they go with the defenseman here, but I think Hellenius is probably one of the forwards in this draft with the most potential in my mind. And I'm a really big fan of him, and I think he would excel with the Devils if he wanted that pick. Not sure how LeBlanc feels about that, but
Yeah, no, I really do like that pick for New Jersey. He's not here to be like a top guy, but he'll be like in your second line, potentially like fringe first line at his potential. Put up great stats in the Finnish league as an 18-year-old.
mhm.
Like in the Finnish league, like I said, they don't count secondary assists. They don't exist in the Finnish league.
Yeah.
So stat line of excuse me, 51 games played, 14 goals, 22 assists, 36 points in 51 games. It's pretty good for an 18-year-old playing against men.
Uh-huh. So I think Hellenius has to be there at 10th overall. Although I would love him to be with the Flyers, I don't think it happens. So at 11th overall, you're the Buffalo Sabres. There's some interesting options here still on the board. I think Buffalo, I feel like you look at their needs. They don't need forwards because they're loaded. I think you go with a defenseman, and I think you go with probably the
That is my pick.
guy, Carter. Yeah. Oh, it is your pick. LeBlanc, would you like to make this pick? Sorry. I'm
I
getting
would.
carried away here. Jesus.
And I'll be honest, I'm not going with the pick you had. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay, never mind. My apologies. I'm sorry. I got carried away. Jeez.
Blooper reel. Anyway, so I'm gonna tell you why I'm not picking a certain player. So the best player on my board right now is Berkeley Catton. But I look at Buffalo and I see they drafted Savoy 2 years ago, undersized center. Drafted Benson last year, undersized winger. Berkey Catton is what, Evan?
Undersized.
So I don't think they go with Catton here. And I do think they need right hand defenseman, but I really do think they're going to take Beckett Seneca.
So I figured you were gonna go with. First off, I apologize to LeBlanc in the audience for trying to steal his pick. I get a little bit too carried away when I'm doing these things, and Hellenius got me going. So Seneca, I think, is probably one of the most underrated forwards in this class. His comparable is actually Nazem Kadri. So he is definitely. I think in our last one, he actually went 15th overall. He's rising up a lot here. He's rising. He's risen up plenty of boards over the years, or over the past couple of weeks, not the years. With this draft, so I think Seneca, 68 points in 63 games played, 41 assists, 27 goals. So is a great offensive forward, and I think there's a lot of potential there. 12th overall. This is my pick now, by the way. To the Philadelphia Flyers. I had to double check. I think that now that I'm actually making my own pick, I'm gonna go with. I think they go with Berkeley Catton.
Yeah.
I don't think Berkeley drops past 12. I made sure this was my pick. Catton with the Spokane Chiefs. His comparison is actually Sebastian Aho. So there's potential there with Catton. The thing is, though, is that he's undersized, and I think that he needs to obviously prove that he can play at the level despite being undersized. But Spokane, not a great WHL team this past year. And Cadden was one of the few gems on that team that made it really good. He had 116 points in 68 games played with the Chiefs. So a lot of upside there. Definitely potentials there. We'll see if it goes to the NHL level, but I have Cadden at 12th overall to the Flyers. Again, as a Flyers fan, I would love Yakimchuk there. I honestly wouldn't hate Brandsek Nygaard there. I've been really high on him recently. But regardless, I think Cadden's probably my best option there on the board. So LeBlanc, now I don't have to steal your pick again. Who are you going with here at 13th?
13. We got Minnesota. I think right here we are going to take. We'll go with Yakimchuk right here. I could have gone. I had a few guys in mind. I really do like Solberg. He's a riser in my eyes. I could go at this pick, but I think Yakimchuk there. I think it just makes sense for Minnesota to take him.
Yeah,
Their defense this past season wasn't amazing. but they do need more right-handers in the system, and I think Yakimchuk, perfect offensive defenseman to for the future for the Minnesota Wild.
Yeah, outside of obviously Brock Faber and I think maybe one or two other guys, the Wild defense was not that great this year. Getting someone like Yakimchuk, who's a big sized right hand defenseman, he has good offensive skill. His comparisons, Brandon Montour. He had 71 points in 66 games played with the Calgary Hitmen this past year. I think Yakimchuk's the perfect pick there at 13th overall. Um, so moving into the 14th overall pick here, it's my pick. Um, I've been looking at like my options here. As I said, I am extremely high on Michael Brantek Nygaard, and that's who I'm going with here at 14th. I think Nygaard is very underrated. First off, had great numbers in the Sweden or Norway leagues. I think that's Norway. But or Sweden. But he has a lot of potential. I think he has a great shot, moves the puck very well, and I think that for San Jose, he's going to take some time, but I think San Jose has nothing but time. So I think Brantek Nygaard makes the most sense. So you got Celebrini and Nygaard. That's a pretty solid offensively powered draft at 14th overall. His comparison, by the way, is Timo Meyer. Before I forget to say that. All right, LeBlanc, 15th overall. Who are you going with here?
Oh, I'm thinking of the scenarios, but I think if I'm Stevie Eiserman, how do you not take Cole Eiserman here?
Yeah, I think Iserman. I think you have. I think Iserman is either a boom or a bust, and I don't think there's anywhere in between there.
Like
Oh.
I can't see Eiserman dropping past 15.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And Iserman's comparison's Brock Besser, but we've said in our mock drafts before that we envision him as just another Cole Caulfield. Not to say that he won't be better than Cole Caulfield or to disregard Cole Caulfield at all, but the most common thing that Iserman does is just score. Like there's not a whole lot of, offensive assets to his game. Can he improve on those? Sure.
Yeah.
But I think that as of right now, Iserman's draft stock has dropped because of that. He was originally supposed to be one of like the top 5 picks, but now he's fallen all the way to 15th in our draft, and that's probably where he goes. But he could be a huge steal at 15th. We'll see. But Iserman, as I said, with the USA U18, had 89 points in 57 games played. 58 of those 89 points were goals. So he's a goal scorer at heart. And for a team like Detroit who has offensive firepower already, maybe this is a very good pick here at 15th overall. So
So
six. Oh, sorry.
speaking of
Please.
Cole Caulfield was also drafted 15th overall by the Montreal Canadiens.
Very true. That did happen. So at 16th overall here, I've been thinking a lot about who I want to go with here. Um, honestly, I think I'm gonna go with the person that LeBlanc said was a huge riser. I'm going with Stian Solberg. Did I say his name right?
I think it's
Sol
Stan. I think it's this. I
Stan?
think it's Stan or Stan. I'm not too sure how you pronounce his first name.
Well, Stan. Oh, we'll just call him Stan. Well, Stan Solberg at 16th overall here to the Blues. I don't even think he was in our last one that we
Nope.
did. He is a guy that I think's risen a lot in his rankings. What even is that team? But he's comparisons Jake McCabe. He's a solid defenseman. I think he has great potential. And for a lot of teams in this draft need defensemen, and I think St. Louis could be one of those teams. And Solberg, good defensively, 15 points in 42 games played with Norway. Those are good defensive looking numbers. It says in this quote here that I just pulled out, he has a Charlie McAvoy like body. Not to say he's going to be like Charlie McAvoy, but he's built like McAvoy. So maybe we'll see. But I think Solberg at 16th um, makes sense. LeBlanc, is he too high in your opinion, or do you think this is?
I think that's where in his range. I do want to say though, he is the most violent defenseman in the draft. Like the dude hits. Like he's mean. Like he's mean.
Yeah.
Like he's
Yeah, I'm with you. 17th overall to the Capitals. We're halfway through this here. We're into the playoff teams. LeBlanc, who are you going with here at 17th?
This is where it gets like this. It could happen or it could not. We are going to go with Michael Hage.
Page, I like a lot. I think he's one of the guys. He's from the United States Hockey League, so he's probably a project. I think he might actually be committed to a college. He might be one of those guys. I'm not entirely
He is
too
heading
sure
to
if he is.
Michigan next season.
Yes. So he's one of the guys who's committed. So he's a project. He's going to take a little bit to get to the NHL or AHL level. But Hage, his comparisons, Jonathan Marchessault, so a Conn Smythe winner there. He had 75 points in 54 games played with the Chicago Steel in the United States Hockey League. But again, he's a project. And I think that at 17th overall, I think that's a good pick for the Washington Capitals, a team that definitely is going to take some time to develop. At 18th overall here, I'm thinking a lot about who I really want to take here. I feel like realistically, I'm looking at who's on the board still. Hmm. Give me um this is where it gets really difficult for me because like a lot of these guys are they're not like elite level players, but they're all pretty even when it comes to skill set wise. Give me Yeah, I'll go with Saka Boysvert here. He's going up a little bit higher than he's been in our other rankings. Like he went 22nd in our other one, but playing for Muskegon, I'm not sure what the full name of the team is in the US.
Muskegon.
Muskegon. There goes my US education. Charlie Coyle is his player comparison. So he's a solid. He has good underrated skill. He creates chances and has good speed with the puck. Um, he has 68 points in 61 games played with the United States Hockey League. So I think he definitely has the potential to become a solid player, but we'll see what he does with Chicago. Yet again, they get another center. So I didn't plan that, but awesome. 19th overall here to the Vegas Golden Knights, LeBlanc.
Um, I feel like this is such a Vegas pick, Trevor Connolly.
Ooh, I figured you were gonna go with Liam Greentree here, but I think Connolly makes a lot of sense. He's definitely a Vegas pick. There's a lot of controversy with Connolly. He's really dropped a lot of boards due to things he's done off the ice.
We're not gonna get
But
into it.
yeah, not gonna get into that. But Connolly with the Tri-City Americans had a good season, 78 points in 52 games played. His comparison's Kevin Fiala. So Vegas, I wouldn't say they're taking a risk here, but it's definitely a controversial pick because I don't think people are going to like that when he gets drafted there. But people will probably also say, "Oh, that makes a ton of sense."
Yeah.
But Connolly, I think, has the skills to become a really good player and actually was one of the top scorers in the USHL this past season. All right, back to me with 20th overall to the New York Islanders. The New York Islanders tend to draft a lot of Russian players. I think they go this direction here again. I'm going to go with Igor Chernyshov. He actually went 18th overall to the Islanders. Since then, they traded for him, or
They traded they
they
traded
traded
down.
they traded down. That's what I meant. They traded their pick to Chicago. So ironically, he just goes to the Islanders here yet again. But with the Dynamo Moskva, which I think is the KHL, he played sometime in the KHL, sometime in the minors. But we'll go with the KHL stats. He had 34 games played, 4 points. But in the minors, he had 22 games played, 28 points. His comparison's Valery Nichushkin. So he's a dynamic forward, has the offensive skill set. But we'll see what comes of that with Chernyshov at 20th overall. But I think that for the Islanders, it makes sense. He's going to take some time, but I think he's the best pick there at
Deal.
20.
It's a steal. I really do like that pick for the Islanders.
Mm-hmm. All right, 21st overall. This is LeBlanc's brother's team. Did not plan that. But your last pick, you took Cole Hudson. Are you going with the same thing here, or are you going off the board?
Liam Greentree.
I don't think Green Tree drops any further. Green Tree has the skill for sure. His comparison's Alexis Lafreniere. He played for the Windsor Spitfires this past year. The biggest thing with Green Tree is his attitude issues. That's one of the biggest things we've heard with Green Tree when you look in terms of overall. But with Windsor, he had 64 games played for 90 points, 36 goals, 54 assists. So has the skill to be
No,
really
no, that was on a bad Windsor team. That team was
good.
bad. Like
They were like, I think, third worst in the OHL. They were not great whatsoever. So those are good numbers. And seeing him drop to 21st overall, some may view that as a massive steal at 21st. So I like that pick there. At 22nd overall to the Nashville Predators. The Predators have a history of going for defensemen. They have a big history of going for defensemen. I'm not going to go in that direction, though. I don't think they go with a D here. I think they go with Emil Hemming. I don't know a whole lot about Hemming, but his comparison's Jake DeBrusk. I think he has potential to be, or TPS, sorry. He has a lot of potential to be a solid forward. He has 11 points in 40 games played in the Finnish league. I think that he's a project. He's going to take some time to develop and fully get there, but Hemming I like a lot at 22nd overall. All right. 23rd overall to the Toronto Maple Leafs, LeBlanc. You have a chance to break or make Maple Leafs fans' days here. So who are you going with at 23rd?
EJ Emery.
EJ Henry, I like a lot. He's definitely a huge riser. I think in the hockey news, he's ranked like in the second round. I believe he is the is he related to Ray Emery?
No, no, he's not.
Okay, all right. He's actually related to
He's ranked 45th on the hockey news.
yes, yeah, I see it. I'm just trying to read that. He's related to Eric Emery, who played in the CFL, I guess.
Yes.
Not to be
Yeah.
confused. So, football to hockey, definitely something you don't see a lot. His comparison is Ben Sherratt. I really hope he does not turn out to be Ben Sherratt. Um, but regardless, or maybe you do because it's going to Toronto. But I think Emery has been a big riser in these rankings over the last couple of weeks. I think it's realistic that we see him going later in the first round in this draft.
Emery's a shutdown guy. Like he's a shutdown D, right-handed, which what the Leafs kind of need.
Very true. So we'll see. We'll see if Emery goes there, but I think it's a good pick. At 24th overall to the Colorado Avalanche, there's a lot of options on the board still. I think you go with, I'm going to go with Matvei Greedon heading there. Greedon played in the United States Hockey League for Muskegon. Said it right that time. He had 83 points in 60 games played. This comparison's Nick Schmaltz. He has good skill. He's very talented. He's definitely a offensively powered forward for sure. So Greedon going at 24th overall. 25th overall to the Boston Bruins. LeBlanc, I have someone I want to go here, but it's not my pick, so I'm going to let you take the wheel
I
here.
I I think this is such a Bruins pick. He's from the Ottawa Valley area. It's Big Dean Latorno.
Yes, that's who I was going to go with. I
Yeah.
think that Latorno is a project. He has a
Yes.
lot of the offensive upside and the upside to be a really good center, but he could also be a massive miss as well. But we'll see. Playing for St. Andrews Academy, not too well known of a college or whatever that is.
Prep school. It's a
I've
prep school.
I've never heard of it. But in the U18, he had 127 points in 56 games played. That's impressive. 61 goal season. So he's got
He's
offensive
six,
upside. He's
yeah,
six
he's
foot seven.
6'7.5".
Yes. His
He,
comparison on here is Tage Thompson. And I think that's solely because of his size. But
yeah.
regardless, he could turn out to be Tage Thompson. We'll see. But Letourneau has plenty of potential at 25th overall. 26th overall to the Canadians. It's my pick yet again. I've been looking at my picks here. I feel like they go with I'm gonna go with Tariq Parasak. Parasak, I think, went at our last one, 20th overall to Prince George. Drops here a little bit because I did some more research since our last one. But Parasak is comparable as Tyler Toffoli with Prince George in the WHL. He had 105 points in 68 games played with Prince George. So he has potential to be a really solid offensive forward here, but we'll see if he does become that. So with the 27th overall pick here to the Carolina Hurricanes, we only have, I think that's 6 more picks remaining. LeBlanc, who are you going to go with at 27th overall now?
Big riser, Igor Surin.
All right, give me a second to find his name here. Found him.
30,
Um,
30.
yeah, so Solon or Surin, Solon. Surin has been a riser, obviously. His comparisons, Owen Tippett. Played for Locomotive in the KHL, played mostly minor games though. He had 52 points in 42 games played with Locomotive, but has plenty of potential to become a powered center there. The Hurricanes make a lot of picks there with Russians in the KHL. For example, Nikishin's one of them, but Surin has potential to be a good top-notch center, and it has good size there as well. 28th overall, the Calgary Flames. It's their second pick in this draft. I think you have to go with. I'm gonna go with Tanner Howe here.
Okay.
Howe, I've definitely seen some talks of him maybe dropping a little bit, but I'm very high on Howe. Played for the Regina Pats. He is
Regina.
or Regina. Sorry, American education. Arturi Lehkonen is your player comparison. So a good, solid second line forward had 77 points in 68 games played. Um, so has potential to become a good forward, but definitely there is some concerns with his play, which has made him drop a little bit. But I think he goes late first round, early second round. All right, LeBlanc with the 29th overall pick. Get into the home stretch. Who are you going with here?
Leo Saline Wallenius.
So you had Celine Wallenius at 23rd overall the last time we did this. What
Yes.
did you change with him dropping this low?
I just think some of the teams that we had rise and we had followers, and Wallenius was one of the followers. Or I was way too high on Wallenius at 23. But it's only dropped by 6, so it's not that big of a drop.
Yeah, that's very true. As well as that too, he also looks like a literal child in some of his photos.
It's
Would like to bring that up. But his best case or his comparison is Neil Pionk. So hopefully he's not putting pucks in his own net, but Pionk definitely a solid, suitable second pairing defenseman. Had 42 points in 43 games with Vaxco, in the Swedish junior leagues. Also played in the U18 Worlds, I think that is, or the World Juniors, one of the
yes.
two, but definitely has some international time over there. So Wallenius, not a bad pick at 29th. 30th overall to the New York Rangers. They're gonna put on a real show since the owner owns the Vegas Sphere. But I think they'll go with I'm gonna go with Jet Luchenko here at 30th overall. Luchenko, his best comparison is William Karlsson. He played for the Guelph Storm. He had 74 points in 68 games played with them. I think that he has definitely um the he has the tools to become a solid center, but he is a little bit undersized than some of the other guys in this draft. So keep that in mind. All right, LeBlanc, 31st overall, your final pick.
I'm debating between two players right now. Hmm. You know what? I'm gonna go with probably the not the pick that's not as safe. Let's go Nikita Artemanov.
I like that. I like Artemanov. I actually thought about going with him earlier in the draft. Um, his comparisons, Blake Coleman. He also played for Torpedo, so he's on the same team as Siliev, I believe. He had 23 points in 54 games played in the KHL, so he has KHL playing time. But there definitely is a project to be done there. We'll see how he does with Anaheim, but again, it's a later pick. So yeah, and finally at 32nd overall to the Philadelphia Flyers. I'm a big fan of. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm a big fan of Andrew Basha. I don't think we've picked him yet. I don't believe.
That was the guy who I was debating with. I'm picking. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I am a big fan of Basha, and I think that if he drops to 32nd, I will be very excited. He played for Medicine Hat as well with Caden Lidstrom.
On his
His
line.
what was on
On
his line?
on
Yeah,
his line.
on his line. So his comparison is Seth Jarvis. So it makes you excited. But then again, he is playing with Lidstrom. We'll see. But I think Basha has good potential, but he's definitely a project, which I think Philadelphia can definitely handle.
Yes.
So
I
that
do
is our what?
I just do want to go over some of the guys that we've missed in
True.
this.
Yeah.
Adam Yurchek wasn't drafted.
I think he's gone in a couple. He early on he was looked at as a solid defenseman, but then his injury really just kind of dropped his value. I think he still can be good though. It's just a matter of
Ryder Ritchie, Cole Bodun, Charlie Elick. Who else wasn't picked? I'm trying to think of Henry Muse. Yeah, it's really about all the guys like they expect to go late first. Like those are the guys who kind of just fell out of favor. Oh, and Teddy Stiga.
oh yeah, he didn't go.
Yeah.
He actually went relatively early
Yeah.
in the one that we did a couple months ago. So yeah, it shows that this draft is really
Wide open.
wide open, to be honest. Outside of probably the top 10, there's a lot of guys who could go anywhere. So, um, is that all you got, LeBlanc?
Well, also, and Cole Hudson didn't go either.
Cole Hudson as well. Um, so yeah, that actually concludes our 2024 mock drafts. We thank you very much for tuning in. Maybe we'll do something afterwards where we review the draft and give it some grades and see how we like the players and just kind of talk about it a little bit. Maybe we'll do something like that. Me and LeBlanc will talk things out. But regardless, thank you all for watching. If you enjoy, make sure to like, subscribe down below. If you want to follow the at NordBlockPod Instagram, be sure to follow at NordBlockPod. Pretty around the catchphrase there. It's good. But regardless, thank you all for watching, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Adios.